I never imagined that the people who loved me the most, my parents, would also be the ones who would put me in one of the most emotionally draining situations of my life. What started as a sweet childhood friendship was twisted into an obsession by two families who thought they knew better than us. They believed in fate, in family bonds, and in some romantic fantasy of two kids growing up side by side, only to fall in love and live happily ever after. But life isn't a fairy tale. Life is messy, unpredictable, and deeply personal. And when two families refuse to let go of their obsession, the damage spreads further than anyone can imagine. This is the story of how my parents tried to force me into a marriage with my childhood best friend, Jake, and how that pressure nearly destroyed not just me, but also Jake's future with the woman he truly loved. I grew up in a suburban neighborhood where everyone knew each other's business. My parents were best friends with another couple, the Millers, Mark and Susan. They had a son, Jake, who was just 6 months older than me. From the moment I could walk, Jake was there. Our parents treated us like a matched set, two puzzle pieces that were destined to fit together. Family barbecues, joint vacations, endless photos of us sitting next to each other, eating ice cream, splashing in swimming pools. My childhood was filled with Jake. At first, I didn't mind. He was my partner in crime, the kid who would sneak cookies from the kitchen with me, the one who built blanket forts in the living room while our parents laughed in the background. But as we got older, things changed. By the time we were teenagers, Jake and I naturally drifted apart. I found my own interests, books, art, a small circle of girlfriends. Jake was into sports, video games, and hanging out with his buddies. We weren't enemies, not even close. We just stopped being glued together the way our parents wanted us to be. The problem, our parents never stopped believing in the fantasy of us. If I had $1 for every time I heard some variation of, "Wouldn't it be perfect if you two ended up together?" I'd be rich enough to move to another state and never hear it again. My mom would sigh dreamily whenever Jake's name came up. My dad would slap Jake on the back during family gatherings and joke, "Someday you'll take care of my daughter, right?" Jake's mom, Susan, loved to tell people, "We've been planning this since they were in diapers." It was exhausting. Jake and I would exchange awkward looks whenever it happened. Sometimes we'd laugh it off, sometimes we'd roll our eyes. But deep down, it started to suffocate me. The more our parents pushed, the less natural my friendship with Jake felt. By the time we turned 15, Jake and I were barely speaking outside of family events. We weren't enemies, not even close. We just stopped being glued together the way our parents wanted us to be. Life went on. We grew up. Jake started dating in high school, and so did I. By the time we reached our mid-20s, we were both in serious relationships. I met Daniel in college. He was funny, ambitious, and made me feel seen in a way Jake never did. He wasn't a perfect man, but he was my choice. Someone I found on my own outside of my parents' bubble. And Jake, on the other hand, met Tracy after college. Tracy was sweet, smart, and honestly, perfect for him. She had a calming presence, the kind of person who could walk into a chaotic room and make everyone breathe easier. She and Jake looked happy together, real, natural, unforced. But our families hated it. When I introduced Daniel to my parents, they were polite but cold. They made it clear they thought Jake would have been better. When Jake brought Tracy to his parents, they did the same thing. Smiles on the surface, icy judgment underneath. And then they started whispering again. "It's not too late. They'll figure it out. Jake and my name belong together." It made me want to scream. The situation came to a head one Christmas. We were all at a joint family gathering, my parents, Jake's parents, my brother, Jake, and his fiancée, Tracy. At one point during dinner, my dad pulled out an old scrapbook and, with a nostalgic grin, showed Tracy a ridiculous childhood photo of Jake and me. We were maybe 5 years old, wearing silly costumes, pretending to get married in some kiddie playset. See, my dad chuckled, it was meant to be from the beginning. The room went quiet. Tracy forced a smile, but I saw the way her hand tightened around her wine glass. Jake looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. That night, I pulled Tracy aside. I told her the truth. Jake and I are just friends. We always have been. Our families are obsessed with this idea, but it's not real. He loves you. Don't let them get into your head. Tracy's eyes softened. She thanked me. For the first time in years, I felt like Jake and I were on the same team again, not because we wanted each other, but because we wanted freedom from our parents' fantasies. Ironically, that moment brought Jake and I closer again. We started texting occasionally, joking about our parents' antics, even meeting for coffee once or twice. It felt like reclaiming a friendship that had been stolen from us. But our families didn't see it that way. To them, it looked like the beginning of the love story they had always wanted. A few months later, Jake's wedding was approaching. Tensions were high. His family was still subtly and not so subtly pushing against Tracy, and mine wasn't helping either. Then, one night, my brother invited me out. He said it was just a casual get-together, a night of drinks and laughs. But when I arrived, I realized with horror that it wasn't just a hangout. It was Jake's bachelor party, and I was the only woman there. From the start, the whole thing felt wrong. The guys, including my own brother, kept making suggestive comments, nudging Jake towards me, cracking jokes about the bride who got away. It was humiliating for both of us. Jake pulled me aside at one point and apologized. He swore he hadn't known I'd be there. I believed him. His face was red with embarrassment. By the end of the night, he looked so uncomfortable that he offered to drive me home. As we left together, I thought it was over. But it wasn't. The next morning, my phone blew up. Someone, probably one of the drunk idiots at the bachelor party, had filmed Jake and me leaving together and posted it online. The caption was something like, "Looks like Jake is ditching his fiancée for his childhood sweetheart after all." The video spread like wildfire among our family and friends.
By noon, my parents were practically celebrating. They called me with voices full of fake sympathy but real excitement. "See, it's fate. This is the universe telling you two to be together." I wanted to throw up. Tracy, on the other hand, called me in tears. She wasn't cruel, just heartbroken. She asked me point blank if anything had happened between Jake and me. I told her the truth. Nothing happened. Jake loved her. I loved Daniel. This was all a cruel joke created by people who couldn't let go of their fantasies. She believed me, but the damage was done. The seed of doubt had been planted, not by me, not by Jake, but by the very people who claimed to love us. Jake and Tracy postponed the wedding. Our families acted like this was a victory, like they had somehow proven themselves right. They clung to the idea that if the wedding is on hold, it must be a sign. But for me, it felt like watching a slow-motion car crash I couldn't stop. Jake grew distant again, this time not just from me, but from everyone. He was tired, drained, and angry. I couldn't blame him. Tracy stopped answering my calls. I didn't blame her either. And me? I felt trapped, angry at my parents, guilty about Tracy, resentful toward the entire situation. Looking back, I realized that this was never about love. Not real love, anyway. Real love is about choice, about freedom, about two people finding each other on their own terms. What our families tried to create wasn't love. It was control. It was selfishness disguised as tradition. Jake and I were never meant to be together. And that's okay. We didn't fail anyone, Our parents failed us by refusing to let go of their fantasy. Even now, I don't know if Jake and Tracy ever fully recovered from what happened. I don't know if Tracy will ever trust me again, or if Jake will ever forgive his parents for meddling so deeply in his life. But I do know one thing. I will never, ever let my family dictate my heart again.